Insider's host and the ABC's national political lead, David Speers, joins us. Good morning, David.
Very good morning to you both. You sure you got enough hot cross buns there?
No, we don't.
I'm worried.
Send more, David. Send more.
David, so yet another week of the campaign is drawing to a close.
Yeah.
What did you make of it? Do you think there was any shift in momentum this week, or has it sort of stayed the same?
It was an interesting week. I mean, it started with the campaign launches and the big housing focus from both sides, and a lot of experts saying, hey, your ideas, what did one of them call them, a dumpster of dumb. They're only going to push up house prices. There was some good and bad in what they offered. I think they largely cancelled each other out. There was also a lot of focus on Peter Dutton's son joining him on the campaign trail, talking about his struggles to get into the housing market as a young 20-year-old apprentice, and then Peter Dutton had to admit that, yes, he is going to help his kids out when it comes to buying a house. But then we saw that Russia-Indonesia story emerge, reports that Russia wanted to base some of its military aircraft in Indonesia. Peter Dutton leapt on that one and even suggested that the Indonesian president had spoken about it and confirmed this was happening. He then, of course, had to walk that back on the debate stage and say that, no, he'd made a mistake on that. So, look, I think, you know, he lost some points on that front. For the debate itself, they both had good moments and bad moments, right? Peter Dutton also seemed a little unsure about the impacts of climate change. Anthony Albanese, for his part, seemed a little unsure about when energy bills might start to come down, and also had that moment on negative gearing when he said, no, we never commissioned Treasury to provide advice on the impact of negative gearing. Jim Chalmers the next day had to say, well, we didn't commission modelling, but I did ask Treasury for advice. So you're splitting hairs a bit there, and that, you know, that has not been helpful for the government yesterday. So it was a more even week, I think. Point is, Peter Dutton needs more than even weeks. He needs to be winning weeks. And I don't think he won this week. Given where he is, where the polls suggest this race is at, he needs something to turn it around.
David, we were all glued to that leaders' debate. What I want to know is, when you walked up to them at the end of the debate and you shook their hands and the mics went down, what was said? Did they acknowledge who had done better or won the debate?
Look, I won't go into those private conversations, but I can confirm, and it's a good question, that no, neither of them said, gee, I nailed that one, or gee, I really flubbed it there. No, they weren't quite as giving the instant analysis themselves on how they'd performed. And
Donald Trump will move it on. Could we possibly do a chat without talking about Donald Trump? He continues to loom large over the campaign. As we talk about every day, of course, there's fears of a global trade war, a global recession. That just grows and grows. Is this helping one side more than the other?
Look, I think the first week or two of the campaign, it was certainly a lot of focus on Donald Trump, and none of that was helping Peter Dutton. I think over the past week, you know, he's gone a little quiet in the Oval Office, well, comparatively speaking. But the danger is, of course, that, yes, anything could come from Donald Trump in the next week or two that's left in this race. Or it could be another, you know, external issue that emerges on the international stage. The other things to look for in the next couple of weeks that could still change things, I suppose, candidates running into trouble. You often see that towards the end of a campaign. A candidate does something dumb or says something silly. That becomes a national issue. Often, you know, both sides have their dirt units. They might tip something out at the end. They hold back, you know, the negative stuff until the end, and that might shift things as well. So, look, the unusual aspect of this campaign, though, is we've got this week ahead that's on again, off again with Easter, Anzac Day. I think a lot of people are going to tune out. Both sides know it. So, you know, Labor would be happy, I think, if things stay where they are. The momentum is pointing towards them winning, either in minority or maybe even a majority government. It's the coalition that has more to lose if things don't really change from here.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting with these couple of, you know, sort of quiet weeks ahead, and pre-polling starts so soon too. Now, David, we saw, obviously, when we're talking about the debate that you moderated, which was the second debate, but we've got two more debates coming up. What else could throw a spanner in the works, do you think, before the election finally happens?
Yeah, I mean, if you trip up badly on the debate stage, that can really knock you around for a day or two. And there are still 2 debates to come. One is Tuesday night and then the following Sunday night. I would say I think both leaders are getting to this point of the campaign pretty well rehearsed in their answers on a lot of the big issues. So, whether they move beyond that, whether you see something new or interesting or damaging, that can change things. But look, as I say, there's also the prospect of external forces, something coming along that they haven't prepared for that might still shift things. But given this lull that we'll go into for the coming week, I think where the momentum's at, and from what I understand, even in the outer suburbs, the parts of the country, the outer suburbs of Melbourne and Sydney, where Peter Dutton's been focusing for 3 years now, some of that voter sentiment is coming back towards Anthony Albanese and Labor in some of the polling. So I think Labor would be feeling more confident about the direction this campaign's going in.